Welcome to Razor 101. Now this class is so important because whether you've been cutting with the razor for 20 years or you're busting it out for the first time, this is a must. And it is definitely a must start here moment for razor cutting. So index finger on top, thumb underneath, and then these three fingers, it's kind of just gonna set in nicely, kind of right there, but this tongue does move back and forth, this part right here. And when you're opening up your stroke, this is the movement. And when you're opening up your stroke a little more, this is the movement, right? I don't necessarily use, sometimes I'll put my pinky through here if I need to, but anything that's going to, just so I don't like drop it, right? Is use it almost like a scissor, but I actually hold it here or I hold it with the pinky there, right? There's a little space right there so that you can easily section with the edge of your comb, and then you're gonna use the smaller teeth to actually do the combing, right? For more precision. When you're holding your razor and your comb together, you're going to open up your razor, right? And the comb is actually gonna fit. And then you're kind of wrapping around and you're going to hold with your top two fingers there and your bottom two fingers there, okay? You just need to make sure you have a grip on here and you don't loosen up that finger. So, if I want a new blade, it says push right on top of the little carton there. It's kind of hard to see, but it says push and there's an arrow, and you can just, and there's a little thumb grip, and you just kind of push out your blade, and then when it retracts, you're left with the blade sticking out just a little bit. They're there to tell you which way to put the blade in, not only the tool, but also back into here to discard of it. So typically I wouldn't take my blade out until I've taken this blade out, but we're gonna set him aside for a minute while we take the blade out of here. I'm gonna use the edge of the box to just push the blade out just a little bit, just like when we were taking it out of its carton, right? Now it's important that you put your blade away in the direction of the arrows, because otherwise they won't stack properly and you won't be able to fit all of the blades or discard all of the blades inside. So this box is really useful because you can use it to help, take blades out and just kind of use it as leverage there. I'm always grabbing the side with the holes, and I'm just gonna put this straight up, and the arrows tell me which direction to put my blade in. Now our little feather guy, he has a brand new blade, so I don't need to change him, but it's gonna be the exact same. You don't have the box here. When I discard them, I put them kind of blade side up, to be honest with you, just so that I know which ones are old and which ones are new, and I stick them right back in the carton. But I usually dilute any kind of cutting lotion with just water so that you get enough wetness to kind of slip ratio. Cutting a line, graduation, and layers are three of the most important cutting lines to know. And then the techniques would obviously be like a 0 degree, so a graduation, which is below 90, and a layer, which is above 90 degrees. So first we're gonna talk about cutting a line, a straight line, almost straight line, right? With a razor at a 0 degree, to where you can really scoop and kind of do a quick little do and get it nice and clean, 0 degrees straight on the neck with this. So there's my cutting line. And that's how you get like a really blunt cutting line with the razor. So you have to come in and you can actually pinch with your fingers, just your fingertips, and work really ultra fine and just nip that right off. And with that kind of like discipline in this hand, you're able to do these little almost like micro fine trims, because that's another question I get asked a lot is, what if I'm just trimming the hair? If I was creating a graduated bob, something that's like really beautiful, is I'm gonna go through and actually open up, I'm gonna show you the incredible, what happens when you go from a small stroke to a little bit bigger stroke to a bigger stroke, because you have the hairs that are at the cutting line, right? But then you also have the hairs at a new cutting line, an internal cutting line that is kind of hidden. And that cutting line, if you can control both at the same time, you can create graduation without actually making your cutting line the line that has the graduation. So I opened up my stroke just ever so slightly here. I'm gonna come down a little further, and I'm gonna start here and open up. Oh, I'm gonna do it so you can see. Some of those shorter hairs are sitting right in here, but the longer hairs are hitting our cutting line, giving us that bevel, that perfect graduated bevel right there. So see, I'm pinching with my fingers, but it's like a really soft, fluid movement, but I have a good grip on here, and I have lots of tension on the ends, and I'm not moving my left hand, much more open stroke, and I don't push the hair. When I comb it around and I bring it down, checking our shape from the side, amazing, right? So we are creating graduation without actually having to hold it at a 45 and create graduation, because by slowly, incrementally opening up our stroke more and more, you can control that external and internal shape at the same time. And then as I get to this corner, so that I don't nick it off too much, I can tighten up my stroke. So I can go a little tighter in there so that I can make sure and not create a big hole, right? So that's the cool thing too, is that as you're kind of working through, you can readjust like the stroke. So now I'm gonna do one last section, kind of like showing you this way of graduating hair. Let me just show you what we've got so far from that side profile, because that's where you can really see that cutting angle. So now if I'm actually wanting to create a graduated bob with my elevation at a 45-degree angle, I can pull this straight out from the head, angle my fingers at a 45-degree, and I'm cutting over the top. So instead of cutting palm to palm here with my scissors, I'm cutting here, or I can angle here and from the underneath go up at a 45. Or I can take my horizontal section here, combing it down, and each section that I take is gonna just be a little bit more at that angle, right? At that 45-degree angle. So, so I wanna keep doing it this cool way, just because. Just so you can see the finished product from when we just reached just above the occipital bone. Like if you're feeling drag, back off this way a little bit. Or if it's just not cutting hair, it's just pushing it this way, tilt in a little bit. And it's that ever so subtle like thing that you shift and that you do and that you change. And if you start losing tension here, you can see how it's gonna start pushing the hair too, right? Keeping that tension, her head's, gotta love a doll head stand. Keeping that tension and getting that right angle, and boom, there you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the next section, and I'm gonna over direct it, and I'm not trying to like do a full haircut here. So now, and the cool thing about the razor too is I could take this whole section because I'm only cutting the ends are, and if I'm over directing everything to the center, I could take this entire section, bring it all the way over. This is giving me an idea for a new haircut actually. And so that's more of a collapsed shape, and you could do that as a bob, and you could actually go in and clean up the line afterwards and have more of a concaved effect. You can leave these bits and pieces, right? But you can see from the side how we still created a bit of like a little bit of a higher up weight line that kind of skinnies out the nape. And this is a little bit of a lower weight line, traditional bob. Okay, so here we are. And I'm just gonna, since we've reached kind of the top of the occipital, I'm gonna bring this all of the way around to the front. And if I'm creating a triangular line, I'm elevating straight up, and then I'm going to go from shorter to longer. And so now when I come to this front, if I want to create a round line, and I over direct forward to create that round line, I can cut straight down from the front because of my elevation is gonna help me, and my over directing up forward is going to help me create that line. Now this is a moment where I might actually travel down as I'm cutting is when I'm doing a face frame. And then another cool way to create a round line is actually going in and doing a curvature with your razor. So I can get my movement going, but then I'm actually going in and creating like a round shape.